Greetings, fellow explorers. This is Tony with Fountain Systems Network, and we are here in pursuit of low-carbon innovations for industrial wastewater treatment. Well, this has been a difficult episode to produce since it's in response to a crisis that's unfolding right now.
Happening at this hour, hundreds of homes are being evacuated in Manatee County as the Piney Point gypsum stack is on the verge of a catastrophic collapse. This is a live look from Eagle 8 HD. It's flying over the leak right now where you can see the wastewater spilling out at this hour. Officials are telling 8 on your side at some point the wall that the water is coming from could completely give in, causing millions of gallons of water to flood out.
So in this episode, we are going to look at the wastewater operations in phosphate mining and manufacturing. We're going to look at a very recent petition filed by a coalition of environmental groups in Florida, urging the EPA to issue new rules regarding the handling and treatment of this hazardous wastewater. And then finally, some thoughts on opportunities for the better management of it. Let's get started. I've been exploring this issue of wastewater from phosphate mining on and off since January. You might recall our episode immediately prior to this one, where I looked at the industrial pretreatment program in Florida. In the course of that research, I also started looking into phosphate mining. I was generally aware that the wastewater from these operations is a known public and environmental hazard, and I wasn't seeing that they were regulated as part of the IPP program. So I had a lot of questions, and I was literally just reading the petition that I mentioned earlier about rulemaking for phosphate mines. And then this emergency at Piney Point happened. So with the current news, it unfortunately looks like a sustainable solution for Piney Point will continue to be a challenge. And at the same time, there are still more than 24 of these phosphogypsum stacks around Florida, some of which have caused other environmental disasters over the years, like this one in Mulberry that had a sinkhole open up under it in 2016. We're going to need to figure out sustainable solutions for these remaining stacks also, and we need to think about better implementation for new ones in the future. Phosphogypsum stacks contain the process water and the wastewater from the mining and manufacture of phosphate. They impound the used water and then they reuse this same water as part of the manufacturing process, pumping it out of and back into the works as they need it. I'm under the impression that during the rainy seasons, the volumes of water build up in the stacks, and it's this excess buildup of water at Piney Point that's a strong contributing factor to the current emergency there. I'm really not clear right now on what the system design is, or what the intention is, rather, for decommissioning of the stacks and making them safe at the end of the facility's life. This leads me to think that there must be some kind of dewatering and or water treatment step that should be part of the decommissioning process, but which didn't happen at Piney Point. They were using some kind of spray mist evaporators to reduce the volumes of water, but obviously that wasn't enough. This petition, filed with the Environmental Protection Agency just in February, is demanding new rulemaking for the phosphate industry, or an update to the regulations. I have to say the petition's been an educational resource for me, and it has some really useful bibliographic references that I still need to dig into. But if you're interested in learning more about this issue, then the petition is a great place to start, and I've included a link to it below in the description. I'll make note of a few themes in the petition. There's a description of the physical and chemical processes of phosphate mining and manufacturing. There's a legislative history of how the industry became exempted from higher standards of regulation to begin with. There's a legal argument, of course, urging the new rulemaking. There were two interesting sections called plausible improper management and nature and severity of the human health and environmental damage that has occurred, both of which offer eye-opening accounts of the disasters imposed by the phosphate mining industry on adjacent communities. Finally, there's section 14, which describes feasible alternatives to current practices. There was one really interesting point in this last section of the petition, suggesting that reverse osmosis should be required for treatment of wastewater and leachate. I'd suggest here that a performance-based target would be more appropriate. Assuming that the EPA is responsive and creates new rules, we'll all be moving forward together around new regulations for the foreseeable future. So what if a water treatment technology comes along and makes it to scale in the next 20 years that produces less brine and has lower carbon dioxide emissions than reverse osmosis. Rather than locking everyone into a prescriptive requirement, wouldn't it be better to define our goals around performance-based targets like specific measurable criteria of discharged water? This would help keep the rules relevant for a much longer period of time. So that's it for this episode, everyone. As you can see, I still have a lot more work to do on this subject. If you like what you see here on Fount Systems Network, please like and subscribe to the channel. Thank you for watching, and remember, keep exploring, keep growing. I'll see you next time.